Well, hey there. Welcome back to the Healthy Church Staff Podcast. I'm Todd Rhodes, co-founder over at chemistrystaffing.com and your daily companion in this journey toward healthier church staff leadership. Today, we're going to be diving into something that's really hits close to home for so many pastors and church staff, and it's the hidden costs of staying too long in a ministry role. Now, this episode is inspired by Wayne Hodges' book, When to Leave: How to Know When It's Time to Move On Before You Stay Too Long. It's a series we started just yesterday. It's going to be a 3-week series here on the podcast, so I hope you'll stay tuned. And stick around until the last part of the podcast, and I'll tell you how you can get Wade's book absolutely free, courtesy of Chemistry Staffing. So staying in one place can feel like the safe thing to do, but it often comes with some unforeseen circumstances. So that's what we're going to explore today, okay? So can we be real for a second? I mean, ministry can feel like a calling and a job that sometimes even feels like a battle zone. All those things are rolled up into one. And staying too long in a role that's no longer healthy for you or the church can have ripple effects far beyond even what we can imagine. And Wade in his book points us out that staying past your expiration date often leads to two major costs. One is for you, a cost to you, and one is a cost to the church. The cost to you could be personal burnout. I mean, ministry isn't just draining, it's soul draining at times, and when you're running on empty especially. And over time, if you stay too long at your church and you know that you need to go, but you stay too long, it can rob you of your joy and your creativity and even your sense of calling. You know, are you constantly feeling like, Sunday's sermon is just a box to check, or whatever you're doing on Sunday? Does it just feel like it's another day? Or maybe you're dreading meetings with your leadership team. I mean, those could be some red flags for you in this area. So personal burnout is a cost that comes to you personally. And then for the church, it could just be stagnation. I mean, when you're operating at half speed, the church oftentimes feels it, and your ability to inspire and lead and shepherd will take a hit as well. It'll diminish, and that's not fair to the congregation. Wade in his book uses a metaphor of a boxer who's just kind of taken too many punches. You might still be standing, but the damage to both you and your church is already done. So sometimes staying feels like it's the faithful thing to do, but in reality, it might be the fear of change or uncertainty that's keeping you there. Okay, so how do you know if you're paying the cost or starting to pay the cost of staying too long where you're at? Here's the bottom line for today. I want you to evaluate your health and your impact. This podcast and this series is not, I know, I own a church staffing firm, right? But the purpose of this podcast is not to try and get you to move. The purpose of this podcast is to try and identify the signs when God might be telling you it's time to move, okay? That might not apply to you. It might apply to you. But how do you know if you're staying too long? Here are 3 questions that I think you can ask that hopefully will help you come up with an answer and maybe bring some clarity to you today. The first question: are you feeling more exhausted than energized by your ministry and by your job? Are you feeling more exhausted than energized? Number 2, have you noticed a decrease in the church's growth or vibrancy? And number 3, are relationships within the church becoming more strained, or maybe they're not strained, but maybe they're just more superficial? And if you're nodding along to any of these, it might be time to have a hard conversation with yourself, or maybe with a mentor or a trusted advisor. So here's what I'd love for you to do. Take some time today, this week. Probably take you, 25, 30 minutes. And if you're feeling like, I'm just not sure if I should stay or should I go, set aside 25 or 30 minutes. And I want you to make a list, put a line right down the middle of it. And on the one side, I want you to list the pros of staying versus leaving. And on the other side, I want you to write down the cons of staying or leaving. And this list is only for you, so you can be brutally honest. What's keeping you in your current role? What would leaving in the next 6 months or a year open up for you personally or help your church? sometimes seeing it on paper can, just kind of give you some added clarity that maybe you've been missing. And you know what? I'd love to hear from you. Are you wrestling through with staying or leaving? Shoot me an email at podcast@chemistrystaffing.com. Share what's on your mind. I read every email. Would love to walk through this with you. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast as well so you never miss an episode. And, of course, if your church is looking to find a new staff member in 2025, visit chemistrystaffing.com or email me, podcast@chemistrystaffing.com. I'd love to talk with you about that. We would love to be honored to partner with you. Okay, and finally, if this whole topic, and again, we just started the series yesterday here on the podcast, we're going to be doing a 3-week series, all based on Wade Hodges' book, When to Leave. As I said, you can get a free copy of that. And to do that, you can just go to chemistrystaffing.com/when-to-leave. It's a fun URL to say, if I can say URL. Here's the URL again. It's chemistrystaffing.com/when-to-leave. It's packed with wisdom that I think will really help you if you're kind of considering a move this year. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining me for a few minutes today. Remember, staying too long isn't a sign of faithfulness if it's draining your soul and stalling your church's growth. So take a step back, evaluate honestly, and know that you're not alone in this journey. Okay, great. We'll see you again right here tomorrow on the Healthy Church Staff Podcast. Have a great day.